Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, everyone. Fantasy Life right here with you for the next couple of hours. Kendall Valenzuela here. Adam Ronis with you, recapping now everything that we saw in week 6. Of course, getting you ready for that waiver wire run and breaking down all good things. We've got Dwain McFarland coming on here in a little bit, talking utilization report. It is Adam's turn. Yep, it's Adam's turn again for Paul Charchian. He sent him on a vacation last week because it was a hard week with the names that he needed to know. So now Paul Charchian is back, and we're going to be doing that here in a little bit. Adam, how you doing? How's it going?
Uh, Not great, but hey, at
Oh,
least it's a
well,
new week. And as far as the guillotine chop list this week, it is very difficult because a
no, it's
lot.
not.
Yes, okay,
No, no,
it is. A
no.
lot of players had bad weeks, so trying to figure out which ones are among the top 10
I
chop.
think you're going to be okay.
Okay, I'm
I
telling you,
do.
you
Why are
you
you
didn't do
saying I
your
should I
you
do
didn't
some
do your
research?
research. That's
No,
why.
I texted you. I said, "Is it your turn?" You said yes. I said, "Okay, I'm not going to research it then
How
because
could
you're
you
going to be
not do
fine."
research? What if I
I
mess
got
up?
3 or 4 names that I'm ready to roll out. I think it's kind of easy this week though.
Okay, I'm telling you, it is not.
Okay. All right. This is what he does, folks. He says that and then all of a sudden he goes clean sweep on the names. It's
No,
going to be
I don't.
fine.
I don't think this is going to be a clean sweep. I'm
I
very
will
worried, to be
I will
honest.
say it was when I was looking through some of my scores with the Monday Night Football games finalized. Man, oh man, some of our big hitters just did not step up. So I understand what you're saying though, and the thing with the chop, with the most chopped that we do, is I always am on the edge when we get to a player with 8, 9, 10 points because I'm like, okay, this could be good enough, but how good is it? So I don't know. It should be fun. I'm excited about that one. Some of our big
Yeah,
hitters just did not show up though. It was
a
really
lot. You're
disappointing.
right. There was a lot of low scores this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some leagues, a lot of like low 100s.
I didn't even hit 100 in one of my other ones, and it was just a perfect storm. I think I told you this, but it was a perfect storm of like Quentin Johnston was out of that game, and then I had Javante Williams, Quinshon Judkins. It was just everyone that had down games felt like they were on my specific teams this week, but it's fine. We move forward.
Oh yeah, trust me, I know. I had one team with Puka Nacua, Emeka Egbuka, Calvin Ridley. Yeah, it was a fun week.
The Puka Nacua news wasn't awful though. They said day to
Yeah, I
day.
say day
You
to
can't
day.
expect him to be there this week though.
No, they're playing in London and then they have a bye. So again,
Yeah, 2
I
weeks.
hope he plays this week, but if you tell me that he'll be back after the bye, I will take that.
How about can we go through some of these games because it was not what I was expecting last night at all. Shout out, let's do the positives on Bills Falcons because I think Falcons fans are just waking up today and saying, "Yeah, we absolutely did that." So if you watched last night, the Falcons defeated the Bills 24-14. Bijan Robinson came in and said, "You know what? I'm just going to take the top crown of fantasy points scored for week 6." He walked away with 35.8 fantasy points. I'm looking at ESPN scoring and he just didn't look back. You kind of saw it from the beginning of that game that maybe this could be a big one for him, and it absolutely was. This was the game for really this whole team between him, Drake London. You were really happy with what you saw between the two of them, and taking down the Bills, who I'm sure Falcons fans thought that they could do that. I was one, Adam, that did not expect it to go the way that it did, or I expected it at least to be a little bit closer. But yeah, Bijan Robinson, that was like an MVP like performance that he gave us last night.
Yeah, this is why he was one of the top running backs. And for some people, the RB1, he is now first in points per game in PPR formats, just a little bit over McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor. But all those three are sitting at least 24 points per game in PPR format. So, look, this is what we expect from him. And he had that big 81-yard
Yeah.
rushing touchdown and probably led people to improbable wins last night. I'm sure a lot of leagues, guys going down. Yeah, I'm down this many with Robinson and maybe someone else. I'm probably not going to win. And then you watch Robinson and what he did, especially in the first half, and you had a glimmer of hope and probably got some huge wins. So, this is what we expect from Robinson. And he's like a receiver, too. He's
Oh
so
yeah.
involved in the passing game, 6 catches for 68 yards. And, I think he has at least like about 110 scrimmage yards or more in every game this year. I know his line last night was 109 and a half. I took the over on that. And Yeah, because some weeks he gets it done on the ground, some weeks in the air. He has 2 100-yard receiving games this year?
Really? I did not know
Yes,
that. Wow.
2,
He's
uh,
incredible.
and 2 100-yard rushing games, with the 170 being the season high yesterday. But, yeah, if you have Robinson, you're loving life.
Yeah, you're sitting pretty, and I'm jealous. I hope people did come back in those wins. If you did, send us a screenshot at K Valenzuela 17 at Adam Ronis over there. I love seeing those. But yeah, Bijan Robinson and the game that he had last night was absolutely phenomenal. And then, I mean, before the game, so the Falcons were without two of their top three wide receivers. Darnell Mooney wasn't in this game with the hamstring injury, and then Ray McLeod was a healthy scratch. So you saw, I mean, Drake London. They relied heavily on two players. It was Bijan Robinson, it was Drake London, and that's really where they went through. They combined for 89% of the team's yardage in the first half, and came in with the highest percentage of their team scrimmage yardage as well, 57% out of any duo in the NFL, and that's according to ESPN research. So they just said, "Hey, Bijan, step up." Drake London, step up, and they did. So it was a fun one for them.
That's typically what they do anyway. I mean, you do
That's
see
true.
Darnell
Well,
Mooney involved a little bit when he's healthy, and Kyle Pitts
I was gonna
occasionally,
say
but
Kyle Pitts fans. I'm sorry.
this was the Pitts game for Kyle Pitts, who has actually been.
Nice. That's
This
a
was
good
the
joke.
worst game of his season. He's actually been solid. His lowest game in PPR before this one was 7.7, and he
Well, which
hit
is
double digits.
surprising because I thought if any game when they
Right,
were
you
going to
would.
have two of them out, that I thought, and we didn't know at the time when we were doing the show yesterday that both of them were going to be out. But if we were live on the air, I would have said, yeah, Kyle Pitts. I would have moved him in my rankings. But since it was a Monday night, you couldn't really move any. So yeah, three receptions for 18 yards. That's it. I would not have expected that.
Yeah, this was reminiscent of the London that we saw last year in the 3 games with Penix, where he just targeted him 39 times in 3 games
Yeah.
and 16 targets in this one. And this is why some people were taking Drake London, late first, early second round, thinking that the value was going to be there. And, it has for the most part. He has at least
Yeah.
8 targets in 4 or 5 games, and he's got double-digit targets in 3 of 5. Now it's 2 straight games with a touchdown, 2 straight games with 100 yards. Just keep in mind, though, Penix is just so good at home and awful on the road. Yesterday, I was saying, how the hell did the Falcons lose 30-0 to the
I
Panthers?
know. I don't know. It's shocking to tell me that that's the same team that just did this to the Buffalo Bills is unreal. I
Yeah,
don't
their
know.
defense has played well this year. I told you yesterday that they hadn't allowed a quarterback to throw for 200 yards, and
Mhm.
that streak continues. I thought Josh Allen would break it yesterday, but he had 180. So they've played well defensively this year, and offensively for fantasy, we like what they do because it's
For sure.
condensed. And we do see Tyler Algier get quite involved. I think he's a guy, especially next week with 6 teams on bye, you're going to start, and you might even. There might be situations where you're hurting at running back. I know I am in my home league. I think I'm going to have to start him. Uh,
But I think that's what makes him one of the top handcuffs, though, is because you're not feeling necessarily bad about it. Some games and some game plans, depending on who they're going to play. Next week, they're at San Francisco. Week 8, I mean, if you look around, week 8 is the Mageddon. They play Miami. So you're going to feel
I
good
think
about
he's
that.
more than a handcuff, though. If you
Yeah, I
look
think
at
he has
the
standalone value.
Yeah, he's had double-digit touches in every game except one. It was the Carolina game where they were down. So that's the only concern is that you might have looked at this game with Buffalo, and Buffalo was only 3.5-point favorite, and said,
Mhm.
well, if they're playing from behind, maybe we don't see him as much. Because if you look, in their 3 wins, he's got at least 11 touches. But he did week 1, it was a competitive game against Tampa. He had 10 carries for 24 yards, but that was a bad matchup because you can't run it on Tampa. You have to get it done
Yeah.
via the pass against them. So, but yeah, especially 6 teams on bye in week 8, in the situation at running back for maybe some teams that lost a couple. I think he's a guy that is always a good chance to score a touchdown. It's 3 touchdowns now in 5 games.
Well, and he was always the guy that we said handcuff because obviously Bijan Robinson is always going to get his in the offseason, but we kind of put him in a separate basket almost with Zach Charbonnet, where we said you can call them a handcuff, but really it's not necessarily a 1A, 1B situation, especially with the Falcons. That's more with the Seahawks, but he has standalone value in some of these games. So it's a good call out. If he's for whatever reason, he should not be floating around the waiver wire, but if he is, you pick him up. And yeah, Miami in week 8 is just a beautiful matchup, especially if you're down a few of your top running backs, you want to go and
Oh,
be ahead of the
that's
waiver
a
wire.
great week to use them against
Yeah,
Miami. Wow.
exactly. That's it, you might be saved that week if you go and do that. So, Michael Penix too. We're going to talk waiver wire, but I will say Michael Penix 14.6 fantasy points in this game. I will say though, with them already being off their bye, also another good quarterback to just go and get if you need quarterback help because the bye is behind them. So we're going to talk about more waiver wire names to know here. But again, they take on San Francisco on the road, Miami Dolphins at home, and then they're on the road against New England for week 9. Buffalo, what are we going to do with Buffalo and the Bills here? I mean, heading into the 2025 season, the Bills had never lost, Adam, 2 straight games heading into their bye week under head coach Sean McDermott. Now we're looking at the Bills, and they are not competing well against teams with winning records. That's one of the things that we have to talk about here. The other part is that it has to, like, their receivers. I remember when we were talking about Khalil Shakir's low ADOT, but now these boundary receivers, I think, is where they're really, really getting beat. Over the last 5 games, their boundary receivers, so basically anyone not named Khalil Shakir, has averaged 89 yards per game collectively. You can't win like that, Adam. Teams are begging them. They're saying, "Hey, go ahead and beat us on those deep throws," and the Bills aren't taking it because they don't trust anyone down there. I think that's one of the biggest parts here that we have to look at.
Yeah, it's a problem. And I remember after week 1, it was supposed to be a Keon Coleman breakout. What happened there? I mean, this was a bad sign with everything going
Yeah.
on with Kincaid out, Samuel out, Josh Palmer, who left this game with injury after getting off to a good start, and Keon Coleman goes 3 for 11. Come
Horrible.
on. So, yeah, they looked so out of sync offensively. Like they never got into a rhythm. I think they had that one drive to start the second half where it looked good, and then that's it. And then key portions of the game, they went away from James Cook. I know he had 17 carries, but it just felt like in critical spots they didn't go to him. And how does James Cook not even have a target? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like it got off to such a good start for James Cook, and now the last 2 games without a touchdown, you're seeing the downside. Everyone was like, "Oh, the faders of James Cook." Well, now you're seeing the problem with James Cook at times. Again, it's 2 games. The volume's been there, but how does he have no receptions over the last 2 games? And we're seeing more Ty Johnson again. And
Yeah.
then Ray
I don't
Davis
know.
didn't play a lot, but he stole the touchdown. But I just don't understand how you have 1 target over the last 2 games for Cook and no receptions. After seeing what he did in week 1, 5 for 58, you got to get him involved in the passing game more.
It's left the Bills without answers against 2 teams that look like maybe they could be in the playoff mix by season's end. Like that's the one thing it looks like. And so it's been the once explosive Bills offense, and then you look at them and they say, "Oh, it's the can't be stopped James Cook show with side of Josh Allen here." And he's been, I mean, he's really been bottled up twice in a row now is what you've said. So, I don't know. It's just crazy for me to look at the Falcons and the Falcons game plan. Shout out to them as well because again, they just basically said to the Bills, beat us downfield with the receivers on the outside, and they just didn't do it. They blitzed Allen all night, and they said, find the answer down there, and it did not happen. Again, over the last 5 games, their boundary receivers, anyone not named James Cook, 89 yards per game collectively. They haven't gone over 100 yards since week 2 against the Jets, Adam. They have to go find an answer before November. I do think they have to go find an answer before November 4th,
Well,
before the trade
we've
deadline.
kind of been saying this for a couple years, and then they get through the regular season. It's where the playoffs come
But
that
then
it
they don't
becomes an issue.
win. Yeah, but
Oh,
don't
I
you think
know.
they want to get over that hump a little bit? Or are they just going to be comfortable losing and not seeing
Well, the
championships?
thing is, though, every team has flaws right now, right? Like it's so week to week, and the Eagles stink now, the Bills stink. We kind of do this all the time, and then they turn it around. But every team has flaws right now. It's just when you look at the first place teams in the AFC, no one predicted that it would be like that.
No. It's crazy. So you think they mellow out here? You think after their bye week they settle in, or are we going
Well,
to get games like this?
if they get Kincaid back and Palmer gets healthy, they got to figure out a way though to get Coleman more involved. This is a guy that they drafted early, and we just haven't seen enough.
Maybe he's just not good.
That could be it. I mean, look at their
So
schedule though.
sometimes I do just sit back and say maybe he's not good, like
I mean,
Travion
they're
Henderson.
after the bye, they're at Carolina, which Carolina is 3-0 at home and playing
Love that.
well. They're home to Kansas City. at Miami, home to the Bucks, at the Texans, at the Steelers. So they actually do have some tough games in there.
Maybe it's they need the bye probably is going to help them this week. Again, the Bills are on a bye, the Ravens. Two teams that probably really need it right now, Adam, if we could
The
say
Ravens
so.
definitely need it.
Could you imagine if we told ourselves going into week 7 that those two would be, well, the Bills really aren't that bad, but the
They're not
Ravens
in
more
first place.
specifically.
New England is.
Yeah, I would have said I don't believe you. I'll take the bet against that every single time.
Yeah,
It's
who would have
crazy.
thought after 6 weeks the best record in the AFC, the Colts.
Just like we drew it up. This is why we love fantasy football. We
Do we?
totally know.
I don't know. I don't love
we
fantasy
totally know
football
what we're
today,
doing.
so
No, I know the past couple days for you haven't
it's been rough.
necessarily been
I just
great.
need to get past today and put this week behind me.
You're a little bit more chipper today, so that's nice.
I'm trying.
Yeah, I know.
Your Mariners are putting me in a good mood. So
there we go. Yesterday was brutal for you. I was just like, oh my gosh, it was too funny. So, all right, Bills Falcons again. Shout out to the Atlanta Falcons for getting this win here, 24-14. We're going to continue breaking down these games because I want to talk through what we saw from the Bears and the Washington Commanders. But first, we have to talk through, and we can talk through that game with the one and only Dwain McFarland here. So the utilization report is live at fantasylife.com. Make sure you go and check that out. It is 100% free. We're going to break it down here with Dwain coming up next. Welcome to the Utilization Report presented here by DraftKings. Dwain McFarland joining us now because he did crunch the numbers, and we might have all the injuries going on in the world, but at least Dwain is going to continue to be positive. Do we have Dwain? Nope, Dwain just left. Dang. Was it my intro, Adam?
yeah,
I need
look,
to do better. I need to hype him up.
I predicted it. Remember, I think
Whoa.
we were talking and we were upset about some things, and Dwayne said, "If you
Oh
ask
my
about that, I'm
gosh.
out," and
It
he
was
just did
me.
it.
Dang it, Dwain. I'm sorry.
I really no, I didn't, but my computer apparently heard me. It just freaked out for a second.
Well, we promise we won't talk about the Seahawks backfield.
Yeah, it heard Kenneth Walker and
if
just
that's what it
shut down.
needs, I will never
has
bring them up
triggers.
again.
My computer has triggers. Basically, the names it knows that I've written about so much, and it can just probably feel my pain. Yeah, I don't know. AI is taking over, I
There
guess.
we go.
Maybe
So
the
we
robots
won't-
did it.
We
I'll
won't
say
ask
that.
about Kenneth Walker. We won't ask about Travion Henderson. How you doing though, Dwain? How's it going? Welcome in.
I'm doing great, Kendall. I was sitting
go.
there jamming. I had my head moving back and forth. We had the music going before the robots, decided to,
It's tough.
jump in and kill this. But I'm doing great. I
Good.
get to hang out with you. I get to hang out with Ronis. I was really enjoying the segment. I was listening as I was coming in, and I just loved Ronis's take on some of this stuff. Like, we do this all the time. We
do.
I mean, we do. And that's like part of like why I created the utilization report was to kind of try to like smooth out the waves, right, of the ups and downs, and say, okay, like if we take a second and we zoom out a little bit, obviously you have to react to 1 week sample still on certain things, but the whole idea of it was like, man, I want to get off the hamster wheel, man, and stop like chasing things just with the ups and downs, and like so much of the analysis like in our space is just like these immediate reactions, and it has to be, and that's what people want. But at the same time, sometimes like we are our own worst enemies, Kendall, because we overreact too much.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well,
let's get into overreacting. Who do you want to talk about?
Hey, that's why we have an overreaction Monday, Dwain. We just let everyone, blow off their steam and say, okay, we can overreact. We can be a little bit annoyed. I think one part, so let's start with Kimani Vidal, right, for the Chargers.
Yeah.
And what you saw with his utilization. Omarion Hampton, Dwain, it sounds like so the report was that he is on IR. He's going to miss the minimum right now is still the next 3 games, but it sounds like it's going to be more than that. So we had to decide between Hassan Haskins, Kimani Vidal. Looked like it was Kimani Vidal. Do you think that role holds throughout the rest of the weeks that were without Omarion Hampton?
I really don't know, Kendall, because again, we're having to react to a 1 game sample, and we know how problematic that can be. People don't want to hear it. We talked about it last week with Bill. We talked about it last week with Michael Carter, and look at what happened to Michael Carter.
What he marks too.
Yeah. So, so when we look at Bam Knight, suddenly was the lead back for the Cardinals. Now it was a close split, like in snaps, but he got more of the rushing attempts, got all the work inside the 5. So we don't always know. I think there are definitely positives though for Vidal, and he was the chip that we recommended at Fantasy Life. If you were to bet on one of these two players and pick them, like if it goes well for them, like he can be a player you're actually going to be excited about starting. And that did happen in the first game. So I think we kind of have to roll with it a little bit here, Kendall. We can't guarantee that it's going to continue. I upgraded him to a low end running back 2 for now in fantasy. So, we'll probably have him somewhere in the ranks between like 26. I know you guys are going to say that's a running back 3, and you are correct. But my guess is he'll come somewhere between like running back 26 and running back 20 for all the rankers this week. There were definitely positives, though. I mean, again, small sample alert, big time here, guys. But Vidal just looked a lot better than Hassan Haskins. And we've seen Hassan Haskins for multiple years now. I think we all kind of know what he is. He's an early down grinder. He's probably going to get some touchdowns still, but Vidal's the guy that can work across all downs. Like he can give you a capable pass catcher out of the backfield. He's a more explosive player. Yards per carry this weekend, 6.5 for Vidal. Haskins, 2.5. Again, something I almost never reference, but we only have the one data point. And Haskins, it kind of matches what we've seen for his career. So yeah, I think Vidal's the more explosive player. I think he can give you pass down chops. And the Chargers love to throw the ball. And that's kind of what we talked about a little bit last week. I think we talked about it on this show. Like, I mean, look, if there's a guy that kind of fits what they're doing this year better, I do think that it's Vidal, and he ended up being the guy. So still available right now in almost 70% of Yahoo leagues. So he's much more of a priority this week than he was last week. If you guys, and to your point, Kendall, the news on Omari and Hampton changed.
Yep.
So probably not back until week 11 at the earliest. Well, they have a bye week on week 12. So we know what that does. That gives teams an incentive to go ahead and rest a player up one more game. So we might not see Omari and Hampton until week 13. So we're talking about a lot of weeks here where you get potential usage from Vidal in your fantasy lineups as a flex. Maybe you're running back 2 if you took sad you took Trevion Henderson, or maybe you just drafted Omari and Hampton and you did the right thing, but you've got an injury here. So yeah, low end running back 2.
How much better should we feel about Brian Thomas Jr. after what we've seen the last couple of weeks?
So I had Matt Harmon on last week. If you guys want to check it out over on the YouTube channel at Fantasy Life, or you can check us out anywhere you get your podcast. But Brian Thomas Jr. was one of the guys that we talked about, and Harmon really broke it down on film. And so I thought there were positives and negatives, and some of them came through in this game for us, Ronis. The positive that Matt Harmon was seeing on film was the fact that Brian Thomas Jr. was basically put back into the role that he was very successful at last year. So the team, I think, is acknowledging that, like, look, he's really good in these areas, so let's use him that way and let's let him like really grow from there. The negative is what they were trying to do is use him more like they were doing Mike Evans last year in Liam Cohen's offense, which was a much more diverse route tree, lining him up more inside from the numbers, moving him around. And Brian Thomas Jr., it's almost like he was just overthinking everything. So maybe it was just too much on his plate. So the positive is they're using him the way he was being used last year, Ronis. The one challenge with that is it's kind of a role that can run hot and cold because you're running a lot of vertical stuff. You're playing outside the numbers a lot. So if a team really wants to take you away, they can. Now, we've seen 2 games in a row playing in that role, like Trevor Lawrence has just thrown it to him anyway. He had a 50-yard touchdown call back. Could have been an even bigger weekend. He gave you 23 fantasy points this weekend. Could have very easily tacked on like another 11 points to that on that play that was called back due to an illegal formation, or it was Travis Hunter.
Yeah, thanks, Travis Hunter.
Subterfuge here. Like he's like, oh no, that was probably on purpose. No, throw the ball to Travis Hunter is what he's saying. But yeah, so I gave him an upgrade, Ronis. I mean, if you look at it, you look at his utilization score. So again, try not to overreact or underreact. I think at this point, we just use his utilization score for the entire season, which is more predictive than fantasy points per game. Looking at the rest of their year, 50% of the time, his comparisons finished as between wide receiver 13 and wide receiver 24. Still not paying off, what you took him as. 7% of his comps did go on to be top 12 wide receivers, so there is a chance. But again, there's the other tail of this, which is they finished, as a wide receiver 4, 12% of the time. So really most of his comps finished in that wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 3 bucket, but I did upgrade him to low end wide receiver 2 territory. The best thing that I saw this last weekend was really just the fact that he and Trevor Lawrence were on the same page more often than not, which was something that we saw in the film, just constant moments of like, okay, maybe Brian Thomas broke the route off this way. Lawrence thought he was going to do that. We don't know for sure who it's on. Is it on Lawrence? Is it on Thomas? You know how these coverages work, and they're really to be on the same page. And to get a lot of targets, like your quarterback, especially on in-breaking routes, Ronis, like your quarterback has to really trust you to let it rip, because if you make the wrong cut, that's a pick for him, or a pick six. It's a turnover at a minimum. And so did see a little bit more in that regard from Brian Thomas Jr. this weekend, but 9 catchable targets. So that was his season high. Coming into the game, his season high before that had been 6. So he was getting the targets. They were decent numbers, but the catchable targets were low because of the miscommunications. And so we did get a positive data point. If he were to do this again next week, and this is how this works, guys, like his utilization score is going to go up again. And right. So that would probably move him more to mid-range wide receiver 2 territory. So there are signs of life right now, though. I would say most likely he's finishing between wide receiver 13 and 24. Not what you paid for when you took him in round 2, but hey, that's a startable fantasy asset.
Talking again with Dwain McFarland here, utilization report live at fantasylife.com. Dwain, I do need to ask about the New York Jets. Just pure curiosity here. The answer could just be no, and we can move on right away. We got news that Adam Schefter reported yesterday. Garrett Wilson hyperextended his knee, so he's expected to miss a couple weeks, and maybe it's just because he's also playing for the Jets. I'm unsure. But does that for you mean that you're moving Mason Taylor up the ranks? Because I know that Taylor, when you first wrote him up, and we've been talking about his utilization score rising for the last couple of weeks as well. He was the number 2 in this offense before this injury. So how do you look at him now going into week 7?
Well, number one, this is really bad for the Jets because they don't have anything on offense besides Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, and we're hopeful for Mason Taylor. But he is one of the biggest utilization score risers. I think the thing to call out with Taylor is he had the injury in the preseason with the high ankle sprain. Then he re-aggravated that in week 1, and we've really seen him get going over the last few weeks. He did bomb this last weekend against the Broncos, only gave you 1.2 fantasy points. One of the most dropped players on Yahoo in like pre-market trading, if you will, where people are just rage cutting people before they can even add anyone. I always love to go over to Yahoo and sort by like on Monday the players that have been cut the most. Mason Taylor was one of them. People are like, okay, I gave it one game and I'm done. But there are the underlying positive thing, Kendall, is he did notch a season high 86% route participation. And historically, tight ends that get to an 80% have a really good chance of finishing as a tight end 1. The number one thing is, can you get on the field enough to score the points at tight end? Because you guys know how it goes. Like we have the really good tight ends at the top, and then we kind of start to get into a blend of really everyone else. And I do think that Taylor now moves up in that group. I've got him as a borderline tight end 1 still this week. I would have been willing to go back to him even with Garrett Wilson. But now, they're going to have to force feed him some more. I don't think it ultimately in this passing attack means like you have like a high end tight end 1, but it's still in the range of outcomes. I mean, he's a young player. He was the 42nd pick in the draft. They believed in him. So Mason Taylor, low end tight end 1 for me the rest of the way.
Speaking of tight ends, what are you seeing with Tucker Kraft?
Yeah, man, the Tucker Kraft stuff is really interesting. And I painted out 3 scenarios in the utilization report. Again, guys, you can find it for free over at fantasylife.com. And I said this in the article, Ronis, I'm like, look, ultimately, I give you guys all these scenarios so that you can kind of decide for yourself if you have a lean on this, right? But scenario 1 is the healthy Tucker Kraft before he injured his knee in week 3, because we don't know how much that's bothering him. Different coaches do different things with injury reporting. So we hear these things at the end of the year, from these guys where it's like, yeah, man, I was playing with this bad ankle all year. And so I try to bring those data points forward just so you can look at them. But over the first 2 games before that injury, he had a utilization score of 82. 77% of his comps had finished as a top 6 tight end going back to 2020 when I started the utilization score. And so if you look at Tucker Kraft, though, in the 3 games since then, Ronis, he has utilization score of 57. And last year it was at 61. So either A, he's hurt and the performance has come down, or B, really, he's just more of what he was last year. And you look at his targets per route run and stuff. That was one of the things last year. I was like, man, guys, like he looks great with the ball in his hands, but like they are just, whether you want to put it on him or the scheme or whatever, not getting enough looks. And that's kind of the bucket that we're back into now. And if we think he's more of what he was last year, his comps average 8.7 fantasy points per game. Right now, he's still been okay because he's giving you the touchdowns. I think he's better than that, but only 12% of those comps were a top 12 tight end. Again, I think Tucker Kraft's going to be a top 12 tight end, but it kind of paints like the bottom end of that outcome range and really what he's having to overcome with touchdowns. Now, it could just be more of a, everything's fine with Tucker Kraft and let's just use the whole season, and his utilization score in that scenario is a 68. And, that would put him more as a mid-range tight end one, which I think is about where we would have him now. So like 46% of his comps finished as tight end 7 to 12. Obviously he's still probably going to rank higher because like who else are we pushing aside for Tucker Kraft right now? But like his historical comps, if we think about fantasy points per game, which is really what the utilization score is looking at, is like he's probably more of a mid-range to low end tight end one. And then we'll have to see like if the injury ends up being an issue and really that's something that gets better as the year goes, maybe we get him back up like into the top. But right now, like the targets per route run are down. And he's living on the touchdowns. And that's just something that, it's high volatility when you deal with something like that. I mean, you have the positive of playing on a good offense with the Packers, but you know how it can go, Ronis. Like they can score their 4 touchdowns on the week. 3 of them can come on the ground. They're very committed to the ground game and Josh Jacobs. So the one other thing I would note is like the trade-off that's happened, and we see this sometimes with the low ADOT players, which Kraft is, and Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has actually seen an ascension in his role in the pass game over the last 3 weeks. So it could also just be defenses are honing in on Kraft and they're like, okay, great. You're taking away that short option. We're just going to show it. We're just going to throw it to Josh Jacobs. So a pretty wide range of outcomes here that I think comes down to you guys. If you really are a believer in Tucker Kraft's ability and you think the injury is a factor, then he's a player you're trying to go buy right now. If you think that, no, well, this is just the Packers offense. This is what they do. They rotate everything. You're looking at him as being someone that you're potentially selling. If you have a manager in your league that thinks Tucker Kraft is a top 3 guy, it really comes down to what you want to believe whenever you inject the truth serum into your veins, or you drink the truth serum. That's what most people do. Ronis, they drink.
Dwain, with all the injuries that we had over the weekend and so far this season, maybe people just need to be doing that. But we appreciate you. Just turn off the injuries for us and it'll be great.
Yeah, I wish we could turn off the injuries. That would be fantastic.
It's not good. It's not good. But Dwain McFarland, again, utilization report live, fantasylife.com, 100% free. Dwain, we get to see you next week. Appreciate it.
Absolutely cannot wait, Kendall. And let's turn off the injuries for this weekend. Please, God. Should we all pray together? Is that what
we need it. Adam's mood on Monday was just awful.
Yeah.
You should have seen it. He was just so sad. But we appreciate
You have your Mariners, so you're good.
Yeah,
exactly.
She's good.
I'm fine. I'm good here. We're going through waiver wire names to know here coming up next. Waiver wire names to know here. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you on this Tuesday morning. I saw some people send us in some of their lineups here, Adam, at K Valenzuela 17, at Adam Ronis over there, that did win because of some big games last night. So we'll continue breaking those down. But I saw Adam here won because of Drake London, said brought me back from the depths of a loss on Monday night. He won 101 to 97. Another one here from Larry was able to win out in these games, and that was awesome. And then, one other one, man, that would have been nice. Imagine some of those games last night. You have Bijan Robinson, jeez.
Imagine if Drake London could have gotten into the end zone at the end of the first half.
That's what I needed.
I needed it too.
Really bad, but what can we do here?
It's tough to complain about what Drake London did last night.
No, it's really nice. And like I said, we'll continue breaking because we didn't break down that other game with the Commanders. So we'll make sure to break that down here in a little bit. But wanted to make sure to go through waiver wire names. So again, this is an interesting week, Adam, where I want to say there might be some out there on the waiver wire for people. Kimani Vidal is going to be the biggest one. We talked about both of them last week. So again, might not be available to you, but we just talked with Dwain McFarland about the role that Vidal had, and still a little bit up in the air, but it does feel like this one's going to stick. I think if you still have Hassan Haskins, that maybe you hang on just in case, but looks like he is the lead back now that we have Omarion Hampton out. And again, the news on Omarion Hampton hasn't been good either. It does feel like they might wait until after their bye week to get him back just to make sure he is 100% healthy. But Vidal in the yards per carry was a lot better. Yards after contact, he was better than Haskins. 10 plus yard attempts, he sat at 23%. Targets per route run, 17% compared to Hassan Haskins, 9%. So again, we broke him down last week. He was the clear winner in this backfield. So definitely someone to look at going into this week.
Yeah, I do think he is rostered in most competitive leagues, but we know there are people listening where maybe he wasn't picked up. So if he is out there, definitely would be the top pickup because there was some confusion last week of who was going to be the lead back. And then there was a report that it was going to be Haskins. Not true. It was Vidal. So hopefully some people might have picked him up already and just didn't start him. now you feel better about him going forward. He definitely looked like the better back. So I don't think this is a situation like Michael Carter or Woody Marks
Yeah.
where it changes. I think they have to go with Vidal. Now, again, it was the Miami defense. So you do have to take that into account. That is just, they are just getting ripped on by everyone. Let's see. Who do the Chargers have this week? I forgot offhand. They have the
Ooh.
Colts. Okay.
Okay, that's a good game.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Yeah, a high total, 48.5. So, yeah, if
That's
Vidal's,
nice.
for the most part, I think if you have Vidal, you're starting him this week. I was only able to get him in one league. I am definitely starting him because that team had Hampton. So he's definitely in
Perfect.
my lineup.
Hey, at least you got a replacement there a little bit. Not a Maureen Hampton, but you can hope, you can dream a little bit. I think the bigger one going into this week is Tampa Bay. I mean, they cannot stay healthy. But even if they can't stay healthy here, Adam, Baker Mayfield, we've talked about this. He was the MVP chance over the weekend, and it might be an offense that you just want to keep kind of plucking away at because they have really been putting up some good numbers from Baker Mayfield. So it doesn't look like they're going to have Bucky Irving this week. I think they already also ruled out Chris Godwin. He
They
is
did.
pretty much doubtful for this week as well.
I'd
This
be worried about Godwin the
conversation,
rest of the year, by the way.
yeah, I didn't want to say it, but I wanted to wait until they gave us the full report. It's not what we expected, but it was one of the risks when drafting Godwin is that he's an older receiver coming off that awful ankle injury last season. And this is a new injury, by the way.
Yeah.
This isn't even the ankle injury. So a little disappointing there. And then Emeka Egbuka, we should expect to be out this week. We haven't gotten the full report on that yet,
He's
but
out.
if you have him, just plan on going somewhere else. Mike Evans is the one thing that throws a little bit of a wrench in this situation because I wanted to talk about Sterling Shepard and Tez Johnson, but I don't think both are viable options if Mike Evans is back. So between Sterling Shepard, Tez Johnson, is there one you prefer over the other?
I lean Tez Johnson. Actually, I actually picked him up last week, Sunday morning.
Oh, nice.
Well, not that I foresaw this coming, but I had to put someone on IR and there was not a lot on waivers. And I said, Godwin's out. Let me just pick up Tez Johnson in case his role increases. I'll probably wind up starting him this week because, again, the waiver wire is thin in that league. But I would go with Tez Johnson, very athletic, and I think he could have a role in this offense. I think he actually might not be a bad start even if Evans is back because they are just so thin right now. So
Yeah.
I prefer Tez Johnson. Again, Shepard's not exciting. He can get you 4 for 40, 4 for 50. You hope he finds the end zone, but I would rather take the shot with Tez Johnson.
Yeah, I wrote him up in that waiver wire article that's live at fantasylife.com because you also like the utilization. When I looked through it, he had the season high 84% route participation, of course, because in week 6 they had all those injuries, but we have to look at who steps up when those injured guys go out. And so it's really important to look at that. And I think he's a wide receiver 5 until we see, like you said, a healthier Egbuka or Godwin, because even if Mike Evans is out there, which he should be because they did not place him on IR, this would be the 4th game that he would miss. And the one thing that I will say, if Mike Evans isn't out there, though, I do think then if you really need a depth piece starter, if you're in a really bad spot, that's when I bring Sterling Shepard back into the conversation because, like you said, they need to go somewhere. And maybe it's also Cade Otton. He hasn't necessarily stepped up in ways that we would have liked, like we saw last season when these guys went down. Cade Otton had a really good string of, I want to say 3 games or 4 games.
Yeah, I think it was
in that
3
stretch,
last year, yeah.
where he was just putting up fantasy points for you. And unfortunately, that just has not been happening this season, but they might need to go back to him. So I think he is a streamable tight end as well. But I do agree Tez Johnson is the guy to go and get in this offense. And then Sterling Shepard if we see Mike Evans not being able to play.
Yeah, and I do think Otton is a solid call, too. He had 5 for 51 this past week. And
Yeah.
the previous week, 4 for 81. So what you have to hope, though, with Evans is that we get clarity on him because that game's Monday night, the Buccaneers in Detroit. So, they better not give us a game time decision. Hopefully we'll know by Saturday because, again, Saturday is their Friday practice with the Monday. So we're probably not going to hear much on Evans tomorrow. Thursday would be the first practice of the week for Tampa. So let's just hope there's some clarity on that.
We need that. We've got more names to know, though, and we are diving deep into some of these waiver wires. I want to talk about a Rams wide receiver that could step up with Puka Nacua out and a couple other tight ends, receivers that we need to mention as well. We're going to go through that here coming up next. This is Fantasy Life right here with you on this Tuesday, going through waiver wire names to know. Article is live at fantasylife.com, 100% free. So make sure you go and check that out. More names to know, though, since we broke down kind of the top guys there at the beginning, Tez Johnson being one of them, obviously Kimani Vidal being another. For the Rams, if you are without Puka Nacua, which I don't know, Adam, they said day to day, Sean McVay is usually pretty good with telling us what the injuries could be and what they could look like, but I think you should prepare to not have Puka, right? That's what you're doing.
Oh yeah, I am hoping miraculously that maybe he shows up and it's not as bad today, and maybe by Friday he practices. Although I haven't seen when they leave to go to London, but
Oh, yeah.
my guess
Yikes.
is that we're not seeing him this week. Again, they have a bye next week, so if there's any pain, any question, you just don't play him. And again, if it means he comes back after the bye, I would take that. I would
Yeah.
love to have him out there this week. But yeah, I am preparing as if he's out. I think you need to do that with any player that's injured because a lot of people have waivers tonight and tomorrow. So just go with the thought, okay, this player's going to be out. So you're prepared. And then in the best case scenario, oh, the player plays,
Yeah.
fine. But you want to be covered. You don't want to be in a scenario where, oh, yeah, he'll play and you're too optimistic. You bypass the waiver wire, don't go aggressively. And then Friday comes, players ruled out, and you're like, oh, no. And a lot of the top players on waivers were already added. Now you're going to the bottom of the barrel. You just don't want to do that. So just prepare as if all these injured guys we're talking about are out. And if they play, great.
Jordan Whittington, 1% rostered here. I think that's the guy that steps up in this situation. Again, Puka Nacua considered day to day with that ankle injury. We know Devontae Adams is going to get his. There's no question about it. You rise him. He rises in the rankings. Woof. Here he gets the biggest boost. But Jordan Whittington also someone to consider because he had 3 receptions for 23 yards on Sunday, but had the season high 86% route participation with Nacua, and Tutu Atwell was out in this game as well.
That's
So I
the
think
thing,
Jordan.
too. Yeah.
I think Jordan Whittington is that guy.
Yeah, it could be him, and I think Atwell as well. I
Yeah.
mean, again, they
I'm just
do.
waiting to see his injury updates
I
with
think he's
Tutu.
playing. I thought I saw something from McVay where they said he
Okay.
should be back. But yeah, this we know it's going to be a lot of Devontae Adams and Kyron Williams, but we are in a scenario where we need bodies to fill in with all the injuries at receiver this week. So yeah, I think you could look at the Rams receivers for sure.
I think too, Harold Fannin Jr. We haven't mentioned a tight end yet. Harold Fannin, now, if you've been holding on to him, because he was actually more rostered than I expected. He's sitting at 28% rostered, which still isn't a lot. But Kevin Stefanski told reporters after this game that David Njoku did suffer a knee injury in week 6. So again, we don't know the status for week 7, but what team do we like to pick on? It is the Miami Dolphins. So if we get an answer here, or if you're just looking at a potential tight end streamer, I think Harold Fannin should be in the mix because, again, it's the Dolphins, and Fannin was able to finish Sunday 7 receptions, 81 yards. And again, he's someone to target going up against Miami. So if we get news, even if we don't, I still think Harold Fannin Jr. is a good guy to just have on your bench, see what happens. But David Njoku will have to see what his knee injury looks like.
Yeah, we've seen Gabriel going to the tight ends a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
it was Njoku in his first start. This week with Njoku in and out of the game, it was Fannin with 10 targets.
Yep.
So, again, he put the ball in the air 52 times. We don't expect that this week, but when he does throw, he's throwing a lot of short stuff to the tight end. So, yeah, if Njoku's out, Fannin becomes a great play this week.
Yeah, I like just keep him on there because we've talked about him throughout the season. So I think he is definitely one to know. And then Zonovan Knight's the other one here for the Cardinals. There were reports that he was going to lead this backfield. He led the way with a 49% snap share. He was the short yardage running back, handled all 4 snaps inside the 5-yard line as well. So he does look like the early down running back that we want to see heading into week 7 with Michael Carter as the number 2. I have Michael Carter. I'm just going to keep him, but Zonovan Knight could be one that people go and get.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a good week for Carter, too. If they play from behind, they are 6.5-point dogs to Green Bay. So Carter is more of the passing back. So it's not an ideal split, but
No.
we're desperate.
We are, because the injuries just don't stop. Waiver wire article live at fantasylife.com, 100% free. We're going to go to the water cooler, go through all the news and notes and your phone calls here coming up next. It is about that time. Time for the Fantasy Life Water Cooler right here on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, where we go through all the pieces of news that you might have missed going into week 7, because you are always going to be up to date on everything while listening to this show. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam, Ronis with you right here. And of course, in the water cooler, we also like to take as many phone calls as we can. So if you've got the time today, 888-963-2682, that's the call-in number, or you can press that new call-in button on the Sirius XM app. You can also find us over there on X at Valenzuela17, at Adam Ronis, so you can send in any questions that you have, and we'll try to get to those as well. I've already seen some of we talked through them, Adam. Some people were able to win their Monday night miracle games because of one Bijan Robinson, because of one Drake London. So you were happy to see that. But call us in, send us in any questions you have, because we are here for you. And so is FantasyLife.com. Again, Fantasy Life and Comet have partnered up. Comet is an AI-powered browser that acts as a personal assistant for you, so they can help you make lineup decisions, go look at any kind of stats that you need. And for a really, really short time here, you can get Fantasy Life Plus for free when you download Comet at fantasylife.com/Comet. COMET is where you want to go. So you follow the 2-minute step-by-step guide. I've done it. It is very easy. And once you do that and download Comet, you'll have full access to all the rankings, all the tools, all the projections that we talk about between us, that Dwain McFarland talks about. And it is something that you definitely want to take advantage of, because you get Fantasy Life Plus free for 1 year. fantasylife.com/Comet. COMET is where you want to go. All right, Adam, we've got a lot to talk about here, because at the top of the show, we did not mention yet. We were breaking down those games and just what the Bills were doing and what the Bills were up to. The Titans fired their head coach, and we did not mention it yet. Brian Callahan is out after starting the second season for him at 1-5. He ends his career in Tennessee, 4-19 record, and the Tennessee Titans just we're not good this year. And so this was one where it's a little bit earlier, I think, than I expected, Adam, but we could tell that it wasn't really turning around there. And I think the Tennessee Titans right now have to look at this situation and say, we need someone that can turn around young quarterbacks. It did not happen with Will Levis. Might have been more on Will Levis and his skill set than anything else. But when you have someone like Cam Ward that has now been, a little bit more public about his frustrations, saying that the team doesn't look good. They have really just been in a tailspin since 2021. So this was one where, again, we might have seen this coming. His seat was obviously very hot, but a little bit earlier than I expected. But yeah, Brian Callahan out after a 1-5 start to the season.
They have been so bad. They had
Horrible.
one touchdown in the first half this season. This offense has been brutal to watch. There's been really nothing positive. So it wasn't that surprising. I mean, I think it was Jeffrey Simmons who said they had an awful week of practice last week. I'm like, oh, that's what you want to hear. And it shows on the field. A lot of times they say the way you practice is how you perform on Sundays. And you could tell the Titans practice has not gone well at all. So yeah, it is. There's not much here for fantasy. That's the biggest problem, because even the one player that you actually felt good about was Tony Pollard, and he played less than Tajay Spears this week. And part of it could have been they were playing from behind, Spears more on passing downs. But Pollard, we were loving because the volume to start the year with no one else taking away in the backfield. And we saw Pollard have 10 carries for 34 yards this week and 2 catches for 13 yards. And there's just not many touchdowns in this offense. Calvin Ridley got injured with that hamstring injury, so I would expect him to miss time. I mean, he was on the sideline with the leg wrapped, so usually any type of hamstring injury, you're going to miss some times. It's more often multiple weeks. So where are we going after that? There's really not much here for fantasy. You do see usually when a new coach takes over, you do see that injection of life. Sometimes it's short term. It might be a game or two. So I'm interested to see how that goes. They are playing New England this week, and it is also Mike Vrabel going against his former team.
Which is it's not funny, but it is kind of funny. They named their senior offensive assistant, Mike McCoy, the interim head coach right now. So he was previously with the Chargers from 2013 to 2016. Yeah, and like you said, they get Vrabel. I mean, even that situation when they fired Vrabel, I remember talking about that and just being a little bit confused on that. It has just been a really an aggressive tailspin where you do look at the coaches because you have someone, I mean, Will Levis struggled a lot last season. And then you look at Cam Ward, who I think has the tools to be a good NFL quarterback, but it just hasn't come to fruition yet. I don't think he's able to will this team into wins or anything like that because, again, the roster, like you said, isn't setting him up for success with the offensive weapons that he has. The Titans have only scored 83 points through 6 games this season. And that's the lowest, or I should say the fewest through 6 games since 1985. It's been bad at some point, and I'm sure Tennessee Titans fans feel this way as well. At some point, though, you have to look inward to the organization and just think to yourself, like, how did we get here from firing Vrabel, which I thought was a weird move at the time, and then Callahan turned over play calling duties to the quarterback's coach, and so I don't know.
Lost 26-0.
And then you
week.
lost. It's just I don't know. I think a lot of people are talking about the controlling owner, and that's Amy Adams Strunk over there, who was the one that did fire Vrabel, and it's just one of those things where I think there might be changes during the offseason, but this is one where maybe they get a little bit of a bump, like you said, but just Callahan's out.
Yeah, it's difficult to see, though. I mean, again, New England's playing very well right now, and maybe there is a letdown game at some point, but I doubt it this week. I think they'll be fired up for Vrabel too, returning to Tennessee.
Yeah, I agree with you.
New England's 3-0 on the road.
New England just looks good right now. Drake May looks great.
Yeah, I mean, look, we both love Drake May going into the year, so it's really not that much of a surprise. And if you look, too, at their schedule, it's really favorable. Now, you got to take advantage of it. I thought it was a good sign that they came out and beat the Saints on the road after that emotional Bills win in national primetime game. So, I mean, they are at Tennessee, home to the Browns, home to the Falcons, which obviously is not easy, at Tampa, home to the Jets, at the Bengals. There's a lot of winnable games in there, so I mean, New England could really make a statement here over the next few weeks and maybe take control of that division.
Do you worry about the lack of a consistent running game over there? Like them becoming more one-dimensional where you can't lean on, I mean, you really can't lean on Ramondre Stevens and TreVeyon Henderson. As much as we joke about TreVeyon Henderson, it really has been that bad. That's the only thing I worry about when looking at Drake May, because I do think he can shoulder a lot of this offense. But at some point, one-dimensional offenses, though, are things that we talk about where we say, man, they really, sometimes you see them take a turn. So that's my only question with them. And it's not on Drake May. It's more of a running back question.
Yeah, you do want to see them get some type of threat in the running game because it's not there right now. So that would be the concern. But again, they do have these winnable games here. And they can really, make a statement and win these games and try and take control of the division. I mean, I'm sure, I haven't even looked at the odds. I'm sure the Bills are still favored to win the division.
They have to be, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
You told me the Ravens, though, dropped, right?
They did, yeah. Pittsburgh is now actually favored to win the division.
Which, again, is crazy.
The Ravens were 1-4 and favored to win the division. That's how bad it is.
That's how bad
Again,
it
I wouldn't
is.
rule them
Oh,
out
my
either.
goodness.
If they get Lamar Jackson back after the bye and get some players back on defense, I think they can.
I don't know. They're 1-5.
I know, but
you have to basically win out.
I don't trust Pittsburgh. That's the thing. Okay. I don't think they're that good.
All right, that makes more sense. So again, Brian Callahan out for the Tennessee Titans, and we'll see if they get a little bit of a bump going into Week 7. Wanted to go through their injury updates here a little bit, so let me just go through them, and we can go talk one by one. Garrett Wilson, we said, avoided a major knee injury, but he still hyperextended his knee, so he is expected to be out for a couple of games there. It looks like Brock Bowers, Pete Carroll just doing Pete Carroll things. I told you that this would happen too. I remember this because now Pete Carroll is saying that it might be best for, quote, the long haul to keep Brock Bowers out through the Week 8 bye. So, again, someone that maybe should have gone on IR but didn't. And then Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving not in play for the Bucs in Week 7. We talked through the Garrett Wilson injury here. Good that he avoided a major knee injury, but he is going to be out. And I don't know if you turn to anyone in this offense, truly, Adam. If you need a streamer, we talked about Mason Taylor with Dwain McFarland, but are you really looking at some of these wide receivers on this team and saying, I want to pick them up? No.
Well, look, we play in leagues with 20 roster spots, so I might have to look at Josh Reynolds. I'm not saying you do in leagues with 16 roster spots.
Don't do this.
I mean, You've seen our waiver
I know.
wires,
I'm kidding.
okay?
I'm just making it worse.
I just went and looked at my lineup this week, and I said, oh, this is bad with all the injuries. So I'm just saying that it's desperation, but at some point, you need someone who's on the field running routes.
You play to win the game.
Yes.
You do. You
I'm
do.
the famous Jets coach.
With the Jets. I was going to say with the Jets.
So,
Put
yeah,
everything
I
out
do
there.
think, and again, I am not, because people listen and they're like, oh, you mentioned Josh Reynolds. This is for leagues who had 20 roster spots. And at the bottom of the list when you put in your bids. That's all I'm saying. Yes, I am that desperate right now.
Listen, they play the Panthers. They host the Panthers in week 7. There could be worse matchups, right? And then they go to the Bengals.
Yeah, see, the Bengals.
Come
win.
on.
It's still the Jets, though, and it's
Stop.
Justin Fields. So,
Do they win one of those games?
with no
Do they
Garrett
get their
Wilson,
first win
I don't
with
know.
no Garrett Wilson?
Panthers are 0-3 on the road. I will say that. The Jets, I think, well, they were opened as favorites. We'll see if they close. Here's the one thing about Justin Fields. He hasn't thrown an interception this year. Okay? Let's take the positive. But because he's afraid to throw the ball. That's why. He's like standing back there, with 8 seconds to throw. And he's like, you know what? I'll just take the sack. I don't want an interception. I want my record to be clean.
It's horrible. It looks so bad. But what did we say from the beginning, Adam? If you're starting him, just close your eyes, go do something else. And we've never known Justin Fields to be a prolific passer, so we weren't expecting that. But again, just be prepared to be without Garrett Wilson here for at least 1 week and maybe more here with the severity of his knee injury. Again, Brock Bowers streaming tight ends is something that you probably have to look at. This has been so disappointing, but he did say that, maybe Brock Bowers is going to be kept out through their week 8 bye. Again, I think Harold Fannin Jr. is a really good guy to go and get. Mason Taylor, if you want to live on the edge a little there for the Jets, and there's some others that we'll go through. And then again, Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving, not in play for the Bucs in week 7. So you get another week of Rachaad White, who has done really well for fantasy managers who have been playing him. And then we talked about Tez Johnson being the guy that you want to go and get on waivers this week as well for Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Godwin, again, I'm worried about long-term. And with Bucky Irving, hope he could come back the following week, but the fact that they ruled him out so early with the game on Monday means maybe it could be longer. So, yeah, if you have Rachaad White, you are loving life because we have seen Rachaad White be a top back in fantasy. It was, 2 years ago? He was like top 5. So it was easy to see him stepping in. He's not been very efficient running the ball. But he's so involved in the passing game. I mean, 7 receptions the last 2 weeks. And he scored 3 rushing touchdowns, too, in these 2 games. Again, only 2.9 yards per carry and 3.8. Seattle's a tough team to run on. San Francisco. But we've seen throughout his career, Rachaad White, not very efficient, but the volume is there. 18 touches, 20 touches in these 2 games without Bucky Irving.
And then the other one I didn't mention, but wanted to just hit again, Puka Nacua is day-to-day with that ankle sprain. So uncertain for week 7. Jordan Whittington is the guy to go and look at. I know that he had a bigger game because obviously Puka Nacua went down and Tutu Atwell wasn't there in that game as well. So that's someone you can check out on the waiver wire report, fantasylife.com. I think that's all the injury news. George, here, you want to end injury news before we go to the phone lines here with some positive news? I can give you positive news.
What's that?
49ers expect George Kittle to practice this week. That doesn't mean he's back, but he's practicing.
Yeah, I'm hoping he returns.
Like
They made it seem like he would be back. It seems like Ricky Pearsall might not. And then also, again, Jerry Jones on earlier this morning said it's thumbs up, looking good for CeeDee Lamb. So we really need that.
Because CeeDee Lamb wouldn't it be amazing to get CeeDee Lamb and George Kittle back this week?
Yes.
It wouldn't help everything, but at least it would make it a little bit more fun. Oh my gosh, so many injuries. And we know you guys are all feeling it too. So make sure you go to fantasylife.com, go and check out that article from me, waiver wire names to know. They're 100% free. Let's go out to the phone lines here, Adam, and see what we've got cooking. 888-963-2682 is the phone number. Let's go out to Brandon in Iowa. Brandon, what do you got for us?
Hey guys, it's a 10-team, 1 quarterback, and the problem is that it seems like people want to hoard quarterbacks in this league, so I try to do the same, but I drafted Caleb Williams and Justin Fields. Well, I ended up picking up Drake May off the waiver wire, and I want to pick up Vidal. So I'm wondering, is it time to cut ties with Fields?
Yeah, look, I
Go
think
ahead.
you could cut either. I mean, look, you're going to play Drake May pretty much every week unless it's like a real daunting matchup. But even in that case, we talked about the Patriots' schedule upcoming. There's not matchups that we're worried about this week,
Yeah.
Tennessee. So, yeah, look, at some point, don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Let them go after these quarterbacks. If you need Vidal, yeah, I'm good. Look, we talked about Fields. He's going to still put up fantasy numbers. Denver was the worst matchup for him. With Garrett Wilson out, though, the next couple weeks, that's more challenging. So, yeah, I think you could cut Fields in that format. You're rolling with Drake May.
Definitely. And 10 teams usually means that you're going to find someone on the waiver wire,
Yeah, like
Brandon. So I'm with you in cutting Fields. Caleb Williams next schedule, Saints, Ravens, Bengals, Giants. But to pick up Vidal, that's way more important than having 3 quarterbacks on your roster. Because like you said, Adam, you're going to play Drake May almost every single time.
yeah, and look how many quarterbacks we've seen that you can stream on a given week. Mac
Yeah.
Jones, Jacoby Brissett. I mean, that's deeper league. So let everyone hoard those quarterbacks. It's going to become a problem for them too, especially in week 8 with 6 teams on bye. They're going to wind
Yeah.
up cutting them. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry about what everyone else is doing. Go get Vidal.
Yeah, go drop Fields. Appreciate you calling in here, Brandon. I see one more that I just want to hit really quick from Ted here. Or no, I'm sorry, from Felix, and then we'll get to yours as well, Ted. But Felix asked how much are we trusting Ladd McConkey now after we saw this game with Quinn Johnson out, Adam? I mean, he stepped up. He led the team with 23 fantasy points, 22% target share, 84 utilization score as well. So I know it was probably a lot hinging on Quentin Johnston being out, but you were at least happy with what he gave you. I still think he's a high-end wide receiver 3, though.
Yeah, he's been getting open all year. He had some drops, obviously, Keenan Allen being there as well. But Allen is a veteran receiver. Maybe you see him slow down a little bit. So, yeah, you're feeling better about McConkey.
All right, it is time. Game time, Adam. You ready? You got your list?
It's a
You
long
ready to
list,
go?
so I'm a
Is
little
it
worried.
a long list? All right. Well, we're going to be talking with Paul Charchian here. We're going to go Family Feud style, most chopped players in guillotine leagues for week 6. We're going to do that here coming up next. One of our favorite parts of the week. We get to talk with Paul Charchian right now, going through Guillotine League most chopped players from week 6. He is back from his all expenses paid vacation that Adam sent him on last week because the names were too difficult. Paul, welcome in. How you doing?
I like that. Adam, when the game's too hard, Adam
Exactly.
just calls the game.
He says, here's some money, go on vacation, and don't be here on Tuesdays. Yeah, I know. I get it.
He Venmoed me $3,200.
Wow, Adam.
I know. That
I'll
was
go on
really very
vacation.
generous, Adam.
I'm all about winning. I'll do whatever it takes.
Oh my gosh, too good.
Took it to Vegas, put it
Ooh.
all on 000 on the roulette wheel, and then I came home. But it was great.
I love it. Well,
All right.
this is one of our favorites. So, I'm curious. Do you think this week is hard, Charch, or do you think this is pretty right in the middle? Adam did not ask you any questions before the show today. So that was the first ever, by the way. First ever.
Without divulging who's on the list of the 10 most chopped players that you'll be trying to guess in a minute, I will say this. Many of them have got unique bidding challenges, and we'll talk about many of those in just a few minutes. Almost all of them have got some extra thing you have to consider before you place your wagers on these 10. They're all good players.
Ooh.
There's nobody who snuck into this list that you don't want on your team. And I'll say this is going to be another little bit of a hint. Most of these players, not all, are end game players. So we're going to be spending some cash today.
There we go.
So
There we go.
let's
All right.
roll up our sleeves. I forget whose turn it is to try to pick
don't worry.
first.
We remember. It is
It's Adam.
Yeah,
Okay, Adam,
great.
you have 3 chances to guess players inside. Well, you've got up to 3 chances to guess players from the 10 most chopped players in guillotine leagues. If you miss any of them, then Kendall gets a one-time chance to steal. So let's, Adam, let's start with you. Give me one of the 10 most chopped players.
Puka Nacua.
Woohoo!
That is correct. The most chopped player was Puka Nacua.
Wow.
We hate it when injury has such a big effect, but he was by far the most chopped player with a chop rate of 19.5%. That's a tough way to go down when Puka Nacua has been probably the single best guillotine player all season. Hate it when injury strikes, but you were absolutely correct, Adam. That is one of three. Who is your second most chopped player?
Emeka Egbuka. What? Oh my God. I told you it was tough.
It
Why?
is tough. I know. You would have thought he'd have been in there. He is
Oh,
not in
man.
there. He is not in there. Let me take a quick look. Egbuka is player 14
Oh,
on
man.
the most chopped player list. So Kendall, it's wide open.
Oh,
9 of
no.
10 available
And this was
spots
the
for
one.
you to steal.
Oh my gosh. And Paul, I texted Adam. I said, I don't even need to practice then. I don't need to look. Okay, let me say, my heart's racing. Okay, let me say Garrett Wilson.
Ding, ding, ding.
Oh,
Garrett
yeah.
Wilson, the third most chopped player coming off
Oh, no, Adam.
injury.
Wilson's on my list. Yeah,
Was
I have,
Jahmyr Gibbs? Was Jahmyr
I have Gibbs
on
on my
there?
list too.
Yeah.
Number 2, Jahmyr
Yeah.
Gibbs.
Damn
Two.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I should have just.
Yes. Yeah.
What about no? Okay.
How about,
all right, go ahead.
Romo Dunze?
He
No.
is not. He was number 24.
Damn.
Interesting.
So let's talk through the 5 most chopped players and
Winner.
let's give out what we would bid on all 5. Congratulations,
Thank
Kendall.
you,
are
thank
the
you.
you are the week's winner. The number 5 most chopped player, New York Jets running back Breece Hall, a chop rate of 13.3%. His utilization score is 73 out of 100. Here's his upcoming schedule: Carolina, Cincinnati. Those are 2 run defenses you can beat, and then a bye week in there for Breece Hall. So let's begin with Adam. How much would you bid on Breece Hall were he available in your guillotine league?
Yeah, the utilization, as you mentioned, is going to be high. I mean, he's this entire offense. Touchdowns, I guess, are a concern, but do like to schedule the next 2 games. The bye is a concern, but I'm going to go 150.
I was going to say, I was going to say 130, and it felt high, but it does feel right, Church. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I failed to mention the median price last week on Breece Hall. It was 189. So if you want to revise anything based on that data
I'll
point,
keep it.
feel free.
I'll keep it.
My bid amount is 75 on Breece Hall. I've got the looming bye. I've got an offense I don't like. Carolina and Cincinnati is favorable, but I don't know, man. Do I want to invest in the Jets offense? And I don't think he's an end game player to me, Breece Hall.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but that Jets offense feels scary to me. Maybe it's just because of last week's game.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not good. It didn't look good, so I could see it. Breece Hall, you just hope that I guess he is kind of a little bit volatile.
He's going to get 20 touches. He should be
That's
involved
the
in the
plus
passing
side.
game.
What if he gets traded?
That
You
could
like
be a
him
good
more?
thing.
You like him more, Charge?
Yeah.
Trade
Almost
rumors
anywhere
going?
else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
to the Chiefs, and I've got real
my
interest in
goodness.
Breece Hall.
Yeah.
So, let me ask, do you two think Breece Hall is an end game player? If you're in a guillotine league in mid-December, are you rocking Breece Hall?
I'm not. I think I'm gonna have better. I'm gonna have better running
yeah,
backs by the
probably
time
not.
week 12 comes.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's why I'm at $75.
Got it. Okay.
All right, let's go to the 4th most chopped player. Minnesota wide receiver Justin Jefferson
Bye
on his
week.
bye.
I knew- I-
want
Oh,
another
dang it.
an illustration of how devastating these early buys are. Here it is. Utilization score 84 out of 100. Upcoming schedule tricky. Philadelphia, then the Chargers, then at Detroit. Now, I just mentioned on last week's median price, $251 for Justin Jefferson. On the plus side of the scale, his buy is over.
Yeah.
So no buy concerns going forward, which is really helpful. Working against Justin Jefferson, JJ McCarthy likely returns. In his first 2 games, he threw 20 and 21 passes, and Justin Jefferson was 37th in targets in those JJ McCarthy starts. I told you this was going to be thorny. This is
that's
a really
difficult.
tricky one to decode. So this time, let's begin with Kendall. How much are you bidding on Justin Jefferson?
I don't like this one because you look at the past 2 weeks, right? Or the weeks, I guess I could say without McCarthy. And so, but the last 2 weeks, he's gotten 22.6, 19.3, 10 receptions, 7 receptions, 11 targets, each of them. But I don't necessarily love the idea of McCarthy coming back. So give me $110 with the idea that I don't think I'm going to get him.
Yeah, last week's median price 251. So
Yeah,
you probably
no
would
chance.
not. And that
You
was
took
heading
Adam.
into a bye week. Adam,
Yeah,
how much you putting on Justin Jefferson?
I'll go a little higher, but also thinking I'm not going to get him 140.
I'm right in that same range. I'm 155 on Justin Jefferson. I feel like I want to let this next month of JJ McCarthy play itself out. And I think there's a chance Justin Jefferson's on this list again in the next month.
Yeah.
So he is an end game player, particularly if JJ McCarthy is much better by December, and presumably he will be, or they'll have just gone to Carson Wentz because JJ hasn't come around. So I feel like by December, one way or another, Justin Jefferson will be okay.
Yeah. It's hard.
Let's go to the third most chopped player. And we're back to the Jets. New York Jets wide receiver Garrett Wilson. He's got a hyperextended knee. You got to factor that in. Utilization score is very big, 83 out of 100. There's hardly another receiver to catch the ball there. I already mentioned the schedule. It's Carolina, Cincinnati bye. Last week's median price in Garrett Wilson was $175. I believe, Adam, it is your turn to go first. What would you bid?
Yeah, I can't go high. I mean, I'm assuming he's going to miss the next 2 games, then the bye week. So you're giving me 3 weeks where a guy is giving me nothing. So I'll go $20.
Yeah, I was going to say 35 and just hope that in the next 3 weeks, someone, gets chopped or he's one of those guys on the bye weeks that also goes. But the hyperextended knee, and then like Adam said, the bye in week 9 means probably 3 weeks without him.
I'm right in between, right in the range you got. I had $30 on Garrett Wilson, under the assumption that he probably does miss at least one game. You've got this looming bye. It's just, and again, Jets offense, how much do you want to invest? Not an end game player, in my opinion, but maybe we'll be proven wrong. The second most chopped player has already been identified earlier in this segment. It is Detroit running back Jahmyr Gibbs, a 13.9% chop rate. His utilization score, even with David Montgomery, way up at 82 out of 100. Upcoming schedule, Tampa Bay and Vita Vea, then a bye, then Minnesota. Last week's median price on Jahmyr Gibbs, $401.
Whoa. No kidding.
Is he an end game player? I believe Jahmyr Gibbs is. So we'll have to pay up. If you want Jahmyr Gibbs, you're going to have to pay. What do you think, Kendall? How much you putting on Jahmyr Gibbs?
You said it. I think he's an end game player. You don't usually get the 7.5 that you saw last week. It's high. I mean, the lowest before this was 15 fantasy points, which you really will take. And so I think because he's an end game player, I'm factoring in the bye in week 8, but I would still pay like $220. I'll pay $220 for Jahmyr Gibbs.
Okay, Adam.
Yeah, I was going to say 225. The bye week, though, is a big concern. And Paul mentioned the matchup against Tampa. He's probably not going to do much in the run game, although I will say this. Cleveland has shut down every running back. Gibbs had 91 rushing yards, I think, against them. And even if they don't run it well, Gibbs is going to be involved in the passing game. Detroit's smart. Gibbs will be targeted in the passing game. But it's really the bye week that in 2 weeks, that's the biggest issue.
So your amount was
225.
225. I am we're all in the same ballpark. I'm $200 on Jahmyr Gibbs with that looming bye. All right, our final player and the most chopped player by a margin, Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua. Utilization score is 91 out of 100. When healthy, the upcoming schedule is at Jacksonville and then bye week and then New Orleans. I think with this ankle injury, I think he sits at Jacksonville and then gets right through the bye week and comes back against the Saints. Last week's median price pre-injury, $425 on Puka Nacua. Adam, how much you throwing down?
Again, missing the 2 weeks is the biggest thing, but he clearly is the end game guy. I mean, he is just money in the bank every single week. So I'll go 250, and I don't think that's going to get it done.
Kendall?
250? Yeah, I don't think it's going to get it done, but I'll do 215 with the idea that also doesn't get it. No, you know what? I'm going higher. I want 275. Give me 275. I'm looking at his fantasy points right now, and you're right. He does not do 4.8. That's an injury thing. And so if you are able to put him, I think, on your bench and just hold him for a little bit until week 9, give me 275. I'm going higher.
I know,
right?
Paul's
so
going
obviously,
lower.
I know.
Yeah, obviously it's an end. He's an end game player, and maybe the best end game player. But he could be chopped for the next 2 weeks, which is really concerning. I feel like this might be my chance to make him go above what I normally like, but nowhere near what he typically would go for. So I'm breaking the wallet a little bit on this. I'm going 245. I'm Puka Nacua. I'm going to try to muddle through 2 weeks, which I almost never do. You have to be such a special player to get me to put a 0-point player on my roster for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be special. Puka is that guy. I'm going to put 245. Now, none of us are probably going to get him. Somebody is probably
Fair.
going to outbid us on Puka Nacua, but I'm going out of my comfort zone for him.
I like that.
Feeling like this is a chance to get about $150 discount off his normal price.
I don't think we've ever heard you say a number high
know.
on the show. Like that's how you know
It
it's
feels
Puka
weird.
Nacua season. I know.
Yes.
Yeah,
Andy's hurt.
he's twitching
Andy's
right
got a
now. He
bye.
looks nervous. He's like, what am I doing?
He's like, I can't do this. I can't do it. That is awesome. Oh my
I'm
gosh,
gonna go-
that was a difficult week, Paul. That was
It
hard.
was.
Yeah.
I
As I
had a
mentioned-
long list.
Yeah.
Can we
Everybody
get the
has
other
injuries issues.
bottom five?
Yeah. Oh, sure. I'd be happy to do that. So the other players that round out the top 10 that we did not talk about yet. Number 6, Saquon Barkley, who's
was
been
on
on
my
this.
list.
He's been on
Okay.
the top 10 list 3 or 4 times. He's running back 22 right now. And people are still bidding on him like he's last year's version of Saquon Barkley.
Interesting.
Then Dalton Kincaid was the 7th most chopped
He was
player,
not on
the
my
only
list.
tight
Okay.
end in the list. Yeah. And then weirdly, I was very surprised. Josh Allen coming in 8th most chopped
Oh.
player, despite the fact threw 2 touchdown passes. But the yardage wasn't there and he didn't run for much.
Really, with 15
James-
fantasy
Yeah,
points?
that's
interesting.
I know.
I didn't
Isn't
think
that
about
odd?
him.
I would have never guessed
Yeah,
that.
I didn't have him on my list.
I didn't either. And
Huh.
then a third bill. I don't think I've ever seen 3 players in a row in the top 10 chop list. James Cook,
Mm.
Wow.
9th most chopped player.
No touchdowns,
then
no
a really-
receptions.
A really tricky guy to figure out. The 10th most chopped player was Quinshon Judkins.
Oh.
And that's really tempting. Really
That
tempting.
is tempting. What would you spend
Yep.
on him?
Well, and you'll be able to see my, you can read more about all of these players
Yeah.
when my article publishes around lunchtime for all this waiver advice. I think I'm going to be at 150 on Quinshon Judkins.
Oh wow. Okay.
Miami this week. So, obviously wheels up. I think he's going to be in my top 3 ranked running backs this
Okay.
week. Then it's the Patriots. And then he goes on bye. So I still got the bye week. Last week's median price on Quinshon Judkins was 205. I'm not going to go that high with the bye only 2 weeks away. But yeah, Judkins is such a big part of that
Interesting.
offense that it's really tempting. Yeah. pushing some chips
Amazing.
on him.
Well, Paul, this was so fun as always. One of our favorite segments of the week, and we
Same.
appreciate you.
Same.
Everyone, go listen to the Chop Podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. Go and check out Paul Charchian's rankings at fantasylife.com, and we will see you next week. Whoa, look at that, the chop.
That's a chopping sound.
Scared the crap out of me, Paul. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye. See you
All
next
right,
week.
there he goes, Paul Charchian there. Oh, Adam, what a
I
game.
told you it was a tough week. So
Well, good thing I had a couple. I was scrolling through during when you were talking. I was scrolling through just to make sure I had a name there, but I was getting a little bit nervous.
So of the top 10,
Ugh.
I only had 4 that were on the top 10 on my list.
Who did you
I
say
had-
to get shot to not win?
Egbuka.
See, I would have said it. I had Igbuka
Right?
too.
Like,
That was shocking.
I figure
How
he
many points
started
did he get?
everywhere. He had 2 for 24,
yeah, that's
I think.
weird.
Yeah,
I
that
would
one is
think
surprising.
Igbuka would
Like
go.
Josh Allen over Egbuka. I mean, I know
Yeah.
everyone starts Josh Allen, but everyone has to start
4.4.
Egbuka.
I know.
There's no way he was benched anywhere.
So interesting. I would have never said Josh Allen to
Neither
be
would I.
to be honest.
Kincaid was a good one. I forgot
Well, I
because
didn't
remember,
think we could do Kincaid though because
Why?
I didn't think we did players that didn't play.
well,
So he was never even on my list.
the reason why Kincaid, he probably got stuck in a lot of lineups
Yeah,
because
that's
there was
true.
no, at least I didn't see any indication that said Kincaid's
No.
going to be out. I knew he was on the
I didn't
injury
either.
report, and I was worried because in the one league I had Kincaid, I had a backup plan, but there was no indication that they were leaning towards him sitting. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people got stunned by it, and they probably just had him in their lineup with no alternative.
Yeah,
So it
that was
makes
me.
sense. I didn't think about it though. He wasn't on my list, but hearing it made sense. But there were
Interesting.
like I thought Sutton, Pittman, guys like that would have been on the list too.
Yeah, I agree
Debo.
there. That was a fun one. That was a good
No, it
one.
wasn't.
I
Just
had a
sums
great
up my
time.
week.
This is a great week for me.
Sums up my week.
I might go buy a lotto ticket. I don't know, but let's go through more of the winners from week 6 here. I want to see if they can continue. Brian Thomas Jr., we broke down his utilization score. Will it continue with this Jacksonville team? Same with George Pickens. If CeeDee Lamb comes back, we're going to break that down and more coming up next. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to have Xfinity. All the games, all in one place. Here's what you get when you watch sports with Xfinity. There's a long list here. Sports Zone, every pro football game and over 1,000 college games, highlights and alerts, all in one place. You get the multi-view. You can be in up to 4 stadiums at once. You also get the Xfinity Fan View, live scores, odds, and stats, all in one place, personalized to exactly what teams you want. You get enhanced 4K, and you get the voice remote. Imagine all of your football all in one place. Easy. Learn more at xfinity.com. Restrictions apply. New residential customers only. Taxes and fees extra and subject to change. This is Fantasy Life. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you on this Tuesday morning, afternoon, almost lunchtime. Oh, lunch sounds good. I'm hungry. And I'm a winner today, so really might get a
Still
scratch
trailing,
ticket. I don't
though,
know.
on the
Yeah, what
season,
is
3-2.
that? Yeah, I figured.
3-2.
That was
But
that was
yeah,
big. This was
I was
big for
gonna
me though, because you don't usually mess up.
I was gonna say I gave it away, but I thought
Did
that
you?
was a tough list.
No, you didn't give it away.
Yeah, I think it was a tough list.
I was never, and to be fair, I was never going to say, I mean, Justin Jefferson, I was never going to say.
Yeah, he wasn't on my radar. Although
Uh,
I was thinking, I said, okay, last week we had bye weeks, and I looked, I'm like, Texans, Minnesota. I'm like, nah, I can't say Jefferson, but yeah,
Here we
kind of
are.
odd.
It's huge for me there. So I will be riding this high the rest of the day.
I guess my interpretation of
Yeah.
that is the teams that had Jefferson just had a really difficult time replacing him, and that's
like
why they
didn't
got
win
eliminated.
like they didn't win their bids, and then
Yeah,
just
and they
had
played
down
a
weeks.
worse
Okay.
player, and then some others players on the roster combined. Just, I guess that has
Yeah,
to
I
be
don't know.
it.
I don't know. There's so many injuries and awful things going on in fantasy this season that you just have to ride the wave. Again, we'll talk through our favorite waiver wire names to know here towards the end, but you can find that list at fantasylife.com. I just wanted to go through more of some of the winners that we hadn't talked about yet, more specifically Brian Thomas Jr. And if you do think that we've turned a little bit of a page here, or if you think that maybe this is just something that we have to enjoy for the time being. 23 fantasy points, caught 8 of a team high 10 targets for 90 yards. First touchdown catch as well. I know we mentioned that with Tedderell McMillan coming down with 2 last week. That was good to see. Brian Thomas Jr. has been so interesting because it almost felt like at the start we were talking about him more as, either he's overthinking it, he's got maybe the wrist injury or the hand injury, and then their connection just didn't look good either. But from what we saw this past week, it really does feel like Brian Thomas Jr. is showing a little signs of life here for the Jaguars and our fantasy teams.
And we figured it was going to happen. I know there was a lot of people who were panicking and maybe sold low on him. They probably regret it right now, and it should have been an even bigger day. Travis Hunter with the offsides penalty that nullified another touchdown, so it could have been a huge day. I also think, too, Brenton Strange being out opened some usage because Strange had about, I think, a 15% target share, and I don't think you're going to see that with the backup tight ends. So I think that's kind of helped Thomas because, again, second most targets of the season at 10. He had 12 in week 2. So, and also it is a new offense that they're installing, and I think it is going to take some time. And you're starting to see it get better. Thomas also had a drop in that game too, which is still an issue. But again, the volume that he's getting now, I think we feel better about it. So it's 80 yards, 90 yards the last 2 weeks, 16 targets the last 2 weeks. So that's what you want, and you just hope that they are more on the same page. And, the catch rate was really good this week. So, yeah, you definitely feel better about Thomas. But you're probably not going to get the return on where you drafted him. I guess there's still an outside shot. He was going late first, early second. Hopefully you weathered the storm and you did not sell low on him.
Yeah, that was the one thing. It was like with some of these guys, you just have to wait and hope. And thankfully, BTJ, like you said, it'll be really difficult. We'll have to see him, we'll have to see him run pretty pure throughout the rest of the season to pay off the round 2 draft capital. But again, with the latest performance, you're looking at a utilization score that climbs to 71 on the season. I think he is going to be an upgrade from me in my rankings going into the week, low end wide receiver 2. And I think he does offer a good range of outcomes as well. So he's someone that I like going into this week, and hopefully it can just continue. I've got more names here. I want to talk about George Pickens and what this will look like with CeeDee Lamb back. Since, Adam, we haven't seen CeeDee Lamb in a long time. So we have to remind people that CeeDee Lamb is still with the Dallas Cowboys, not out for the season. Hopefully we get him back this week. And our favorite waiver wire names to know, we'll go through rapid fire there here coming up next. As always, appreciate everyone hanging out with us. We love talking to you guys. We love seeing some of your teams that you send us at Valenzuela17, at Adam Ronis over there. Shout out to Allie, by the way. Did you see this that she tagged us in? This team? I want that. Put up 205 points in week 6.
Yeah, that team is pretty dominant too.
That's loaded. Dak
gotta
Prescott,
be
Bijan,
that
Rico.
has to be a 10-team league.
JSN, Tet, Drake London. God, that's amazing.
You think that's an 8?
No.
You think it's not a 12? I can tell you that right now. That is not a 12-team league.
Well, Allie listens to us, so maybe, people just dominate,
It's probably 10. But yeah, that's
awesome.
That's a nice amazing team. So let's see, because you take Robinson in round 1,
Rico,
London round 2,
picked up
ASN round 3, and then Dowdle off waivers.
Tet
McMillan, is this ESPN?
This is ESPN.
So we talked about McMillan was in the 70s or 80s.
Yes.
I wrote about that before the year. Like, if you're an ESPN, McMillan's a
Trey McBride was in the fourth, fifth. Yeah,
I would think
Drake
JSN
London
would
was
be the
up there.
third round pick here, but then again, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. This is amazing. So shout out to Allie.
I wish I had, and the team's healthy. That's the good thing.
And
I don't know about that.
Well, knock on wood. Come on, don't jinx Allie like that. What are you doing?
No, I'd say that. How am I jinxing? I said the team is healthy. I gave an accurate assessment.
Now let's reevaluate next week and see what happens. We can't have more injuries. We just can't do it. If you do have injuries, though, go to fantasylife.com. Check out the waiver wire article. Hopefully you have some of these guys available. I think that, the biggest one is going to be Kimani Vidal this week, right? He's going to be at the very top. If you read all throughout waiver wire articles, he's just going to be the guy that you see on the cover of all of them because he was able to come through. He's only 27% rostered. I will say too, if you need wide receivers, do not sleep on Tez Johnson, Jordan Whittington for the Rams. Jordan Whittington for the Rams, Tez Johnson for the Buccaneers. Both 1% rostered should be available for you. And then I did recommend Allgeier Manor, Adam, but listen, it's because we haven't seen much from this team. They just haven't been good. But when you have someone like Calvin Ridley go down, who it feels like he'll be out for at least this week with the hamstring injury, you look to the next guy up, Allgeier Manor, and they've had a good connection, right, with him and Cam Ward. So it hasn't meant fantasy points week in and week out, but I do think if we're looking down the depth chart, he is the next man up in this offense.
Yeah, and again, it's an offense we really are not invested in much, but there could be opportunities for targets there because we haven't heard any updates on Calvin Ridley, but it's a hamstring. My guess is we see him sit this week.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at running backs here, or let me just mention one more. I would just say, Adam, be careful with Zay Jones. I understand it. I like the appeal. The Cardinals are facing the Packers defense, though, in week 7. Concussions are a little bit tricky. Hopefully we get Marvin Harrison Jr. back this week, but they are one of the teams on a bye in week 8. So if he's out, obviously that makes Zay Jones, a better pickup off the waiver wire. Also only 1% rostered, but I would just say be very careful because this matchup is not in the Cardinals' favor.
Yeah, again, in the real deep formats with like 20 roster spots, you might not have a choice, but in those with 16 roster spots, you probably have better options available. We also have to see if Kyler Murray returns this week. That's also a question mark there.
Running backs. Let's stay with the Cardinals. Bam Knight, Zonovan Knight, I think is one that you definitely look to. If you have Michael Carter, though, hang on, because I still think that we have value with Michael Carter. You might look, and some of your league mates might make this mistake, and that's why we always say after waiver wires run, go look at who was dropped, because there are sometimes really good guys that people just make mistakes about, or they don't look at the full, utilization. They just look at the box score. They say, Zonovan Knight's the guy in this backfield. So be careful. Keep Michael Carter if you have him. Zonovan Knight's a good guy to go and get. I'm going to say Kendre Miller until we get probably to the end of the season, Adam, but he continues to be someone that you should roster. And I'll just say Jaden Blue as well, because Miles Sanders had the season-ending knee injury. You are not picking up and starting Jaden Blue in hopefully any situation, but he's there, he's the backup now.
Yeah, with Knight and Carter, Knight 51% of the snaps, Carter 44%, 12 touches for Knight, 11 for Carter. And if they're playing from behind, Carter's the passing down back. So you're right. Don't dismiss him.
Do not drop him. Go check him out if he has been dropped by one of your league mates too, and go and pick him up because we still like him. That article is live at fantasylife.com. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today. Make sure you go and sign up for our newsletter, 100% free. We'll be back same time tomorrow.